right, we're ready to get started here? Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special meeting of the Brighton Area Schools Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'll do a quick roll call here. Ms. Tierney? Here. Ms. Urbane? Here. Dr. Krebs? Here. Ms. Marks? Here. Mr. Stahl? Yes. And Mr. Myers, I'm here. That moves us to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve it as presented? Moved by Ms. Tierney. Support by Mr. Stahl. Any discussion? I would make a motion to amend the agenda to add immediately after the call to the public a for action item, approval of the BESPA and non-affiliated employee contract modifications or contracts as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Supported by Ms. Marks. Any discussion? All those in favor of the approval of the agenda as amended signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 6-0. All right, that moves us to the call to the public. If there's anyone here that would like to address the board, this is your opportunity to do so. You will have 3 minutes. I've got one card here. Stephanie Roth, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Stephanie Roth. My 3 children went through Brighton Area Schools from kindergarten through 12th grade and graduated from Brighton Area Schools in 2010, 2011, and 2012. All are college graduates and gainfully employed. Thank you, Brighton Area Schools, for their solid educational foundation. I am working in my 25th year as a special education program assistant, commonly called Special Ed Parapro, for Brighton Area Schools. I'm also the president and Division I Paraprofessionals representative for the Brighton Educational Support Personnel Association, commonly known as BESPA. BESPA is the union representing the support staff of Brighton Area Schools in the areas of paraprofessionals, maintenance, student nutrition, and secretaries. My reason for addressing you tonight is to recognize and thank you, the school board, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Jacob Anastasov, Assistant Superintendent of Finance, David Jones, and Superintendent Matt Outlaw for cooperative, collaborative negotiation process. The support staff of the Brighton Area Schools sincerely appreciates the recognition and support reflected in the manner of our collaborative labor relations, our negotiations, and our tentative agreement that you will be voting on tonight. Thank you for recognizing and valuing the support staff of Brighton Area Schools.
Thank you. And thank you, Mrs. Roth, and your team for all of your hard work and dedication to our students and our district, and for your collaborative efforts in bringing forward to where we are now with the ratification of the contract. So on behalf of the board, we thank you as well. All right. That closes the call to the public and moves us to the item A, BESPA and non-affiliated employee contracts. I would make a motion to approve the BESPA and non-affiliated employee contracts as presented. Second. Supported by Mr. Stahl. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 6-0. All right, that now moves us to the board work session portion of our agenda. The item A, bond project discussion. I will turn it over to Mr. Stahl or Ms. Tierney, whoever would like to get us started.
Ms. Tierney has a presentation for us, so I'm going to say that I'm going to let her get that rolling, and I'll add my 2 cents as needed. By the way, I want to thank you for doing that.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of hard work.
All right, so this is a continuation of the original presentation, and we're going to go into the actual bond dollars and have a discussion around that. So let me get to it here. And then we can reference back as need be to these other pieces. Okay, so in our last discussion, Mr. Stahl and I presented projects at each of the buildings, and our wonderful Clark Construction and King Scott came up with some, they came up with a dollar amount for us based on those projects. And so we are sitting currently at about $150 million for those projects that we referenced. Facilities met, and we took out some things like ceiling tiles and door hardware, minor things that we could do theoretically in-house. And then we have, after this, a list of items that we would like to discuss. I'll show it to you real fast, that are to have more discussion around. So we put them in as parking lot items. But I want to go back and have a discussion around what we feel comfortable as a board asking our constituents to, or taxpayers to pay. Looking at 150 million, that would take us up to 4 mills. It's still down from 7.19 back in 2019, but it will take us from 2.92 to 1.08, which is equivalent to about $200 per $100,000 of homestead property value. So if you owned a $400,000 house, the yearly investment towards Brighton area schools would be $800. Similarly, with a $200 million bond consideration, we would be at 4.1 mils. It would still be down from the 2019 bond by 3.09 mils, but it would take us up by 1.18 from where we sit currently. And the difference is negligible. It's about $5 more than the $150 million bond. So if you owned a $400,000 home, the yearly investment would be about $820. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
One question
Yes.
I have.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily relate directly to this, but I know that the estimates of the projects that have been analyzed were sitting at about 150 million in terms of those that have been identified. What is the percentage of a contingency that's built into that 150 million?
20%, right, Ken? It's like 10 and 10? Maybe.
We have a 10% contingency in there, but we also have the escalation. That's another 12% that we have.
So, what's that?
That's a gamble on the
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean, I understand that the escalation percentage is tied to, external factors in the marketplace versus the contingency being unknowns relating to, the physical facilities or things that, are just unexpected as you encounter during the construction process. I know that in the last bond in 2019, our contingency, I don't remember if we had an escalator, a price escalator component built into it, or if it was just all lumped into a contingency, but the contingency percentage was significantly higher. I realize that we're looking at two different benchmarks at 4 and 4.1, but, even if we ended up landing, I'm just throwing this out here, but, even if we ended up landing with the scope of the projects at 150 million as the cost estimate that we currently have, if we increased the contingency to say instead of 10%, we did 20%, that would add another, it could add another, whatever, 14 million, 15 million, it's probably, around 14 million. That would get, we might end up landing somewhere in like 4.05, as opposed to 4.1, or somewhere in that ballpark. And still have, really dialed in on the projects, but give us additional cushion from a contingency dollar standpoint without breaking the bank on the additional mills that we're going to be potentially asking the voters to approve. So just food for thought, because, that, and obviously having that larger contingency percentage was very helpful for the district in the last bond, because we were able to not only deliver the projects that were on the application, but it enabled us to enhance some of those projects. It enabled us to tackle some additional projects that weren't even on the original, you know, a bond application. So it just gives us a lot more flexibility, particularly if we've got, you know, the opportunity to capture some additional tax dollars without, you know, really adding a lot of, you know, millage. And I think for purposes of the marketing, I don't think we should, I think the focus should be not on what they're paying for the overall, I mean, they're already paying you know, residents are already paying 2.92. The question is gonna be, what is this additional bond going to, how's that gonna impact if it's passed? It's not, you know, for 4 mills, it's not $800, it's like, you know, $220 or something. It's, in terms of what the vote.
difference would be
Yeah,
by-
the difference,
Yeah, by
right.
going this route versus the existing tax rate.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right. That's exactly right. And I think that really is the focal, it should be the focal point as part of the, you know, the marketing or the presentation.
Yeah, because they're already paying a good portion of that.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Well, and Katie, I'm gonna kind of go in here, because there are some of these parking lot topics that we're calling them. You know, the black box, we're not sure what that is or where it's going, so that's something that possibly, you can think about that extra contingency, because we're not sure what we're doing. It's not included in the 150, so we gotta make that known. We still have to figure out what we're doing there, if we're doing, how we're doing. We haven't had a lot of discussion about that, because I don't think a lot of us understand it fully. So, so that's one that's not in there. The security system, we do have some money in it, but it didn't. The security system, you know, with, the lockout and the actual system, they've got some money in it, but we don't know exactly what we're talking about. We haven't discussed exactly what we want done in that, so they've got some money built into it. Is that correct, guys? Is that a good statement? The high school redesign is in this. Okay, so that was something that we kind of lightly touched on, and it is in this package. Central kitchen, there's some money in that for that, but we don't know exactly what that means, so that's going to be some more discussion. The turf fields, we haven't had much discussion about that, so they're still on our list, but we haven't discussed that to extent. So the multi fields and the drive and parking lot, we do have that in the bond and some money set aside for the field removal, but we don't know what extent that'll be. So we still have to discuss these, and I think Katie's point, is gonna have us, we're gonna go through each one that we talked about again and see if there are any questions on the ones we already know are in here. I just wanted to bring this to your attention. We talked about purchasing land possibly, for future use, that's not in here, so that'll be discussion. And the stages at the elementary, schools. You know, if we're going to bolster our programs with those stages, we don't have money in there for that yet, that would be a discussion here. So those are just some of the other ideas that have been tossed around that didn't make it in the 150. So we do have things to talk about, so.
But I would go back and say, do we feel comfortable in this range then? 150 to 200?
I guess my question, do we have any of the polling data back?
I have an email that just popped up from the polling, so I have not had a chance to open it and go through it, but I do have an email that just came in, so.
Time.
So yes, we have it, but I'm not sure what's in it yet, so.
I just, because it would be helpful for me to know where the public's at. I can out my husband. I use him a little bit as the canary in the coal mine because he's very, very fiscally conservative. And in fact, I got in trouble once for voting for I should say, I'm stating this publicly, so it's not trouble. He gave me some grief for voting for a street millage once that he then explained how much it actually cost us. And I asked him all three of the options, even the 250 option, and he was like, I'd go for the 250 at this point. The difference between the 150 and the 250 was negligible, and if you could show me that you were going to get some of those additional parking lot items in there, he goes, I would go for the 250. So I feel like for me, the 200 at least.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. Again, it is the negligible amount that we're talking about, a difference. I think we kick ourselves behind later if we don't
I don't think you have to make
Yeah,
a
we don't
final
have to
decision.
decide.
I was just saying, are we in the
We're
ballpark?
Right.
And then you keep talking, and
Yep.
by February, you're gonna have
Yeah,
solid numbers.
absolutely.
So,
Okay, so if we think about the elementary level, I felt like we had that pretty narrowed down. Do you guys want to revisit that and see if there's any, or do you have anything from the last meeting that stuck out to you that you want to discuss, or do you feel pretty solid with where we're at?
So elementary, just to kind of remind you, gymnasiums on a couple of them, extra classrooms, bringing the entryway that's secured vestibule forward on the buildings. Those were a couple of the major ones. Additional classrooms I touched on. Say again?
Rooms, sensory rooms,
Yep,
exterior toilets at 2 of the buildings.
yep.
buildings.
Those were the items on those, for the most part.
If we were to add stages, do we know how much that adds?
They just caught wind of that
Okay.
tonight, so.
Where would those,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe this is too early, but where would they go? Where would a stage go?
About that, and that
What was
was,
the question?
where would a stage go?
Like if we were to put stages,
Mhm.
which were on that list, potentially, or maybe night, I don't know, if you did that 2 elementaries, maybe you don't do it all, but where would they go? Because if we're adding a gym, like we look at the gym that we have, that we are using as our model gym, right?
Yeah.
In the district that was done that long ago, you're not going to want to infiltrate that space with a stage. They need that space for the gym.
Right.
So is it the cafeteria?
Well, I don't know that there's room in the cafeteria either.
I think
Okay.
the one, I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
So, it's different in each one a little bit. So, in the, I was trying to think where, Hawkins, we were talking about a building that is outside of that building, right? The same thing with Horning. Both of the buildings are not attached. Well, they could or cannot be attached, that's a big discussion. So we're not taking away that space, we're turning that into something, we're turning that into a classroom, so that gym. So we're creating a gym in the back, and the existing gym becomes part of the classrooms.
Right, but where would this, I'm
Not big enough. I
I'm
don't
asking
believe.
where, right.
To
like
put in a, like a,
so
Yeah.
I would throw one idea, and I would turn it over to our folks to like explore this, but
Yeah.
if you went down the stairs here to the gymnasium downstairs, you know, you have the storage on either side, and then in the middle, you have a stage, so it's bumped out, and then you have a full basketball court. So, you know, maybe a design, something a little bit more like what we have downstairs.
Kind of like traditional school design, I mean, which is what we're looking at here, right? Yeah, yeah.
A little bit bigger than what you have at Hawkins in order to do that, or flip, or turn it around the other
Right.
way, right?
right before this, I was talking to Mr. Pollock, and I said, could you do something where it's tucked away in storage, and you could pull the stage out? But, you know, he said he hadn't done one in a while. It can be done. Yeah. So it would have to be left up, I believe, to the experts to look at it and see, yes.
I think you're gonna want to be.
Yeah. I
Right, just
think-
like it's downstairs here.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd like to, so, you gave me an idea. So, in those spaces, you know, we typically raise it up so people can sit back, but in this black box era, where I didn't get to it, but I understand that it was in the stage, they had the curtains wrapped around it, and it was just this intimate setting. So why couldn't it be something like that with a curtain that goes back? Doesn't necessarily have to be elevated. It could be right alongside the gym, but it's just, you're gonna have one of these events, close the curtain, everybody meets inside there that's coming. Out in the gym area, we can have, you know, seating for the people that are waiting to go to the next one, because they're not huge events on an individual basis. Maybe we can get a collaboration of both out of that, and we open it up, and you have extra space during the game, and you can sit chairs there.
Maybe let's
Throw some
come up with some ideas, maybe
Yeah.
at a future meeting, because that was something that came out from the PTO, Moms, Katie was there for that, and that was something that would be helpful. Because they were trying to go to the BCPA to help us with the usage of that area, and they said if we had stages in our buildings to use, that would give them an opportunity. They wouldn't have to come to the BCPA all the time, and Maltby and Scranton and things like that, so.
Yep.
I mean, I also wonder at some point if we're gonna put a couple stages in at each elementary, are we better off just doing a black box theater other than adding, multiple stages?
Well, except for if you have a stage in your own building, that building will use that stage. If we have a black box theater, we're going to have competition across the district for that space. So, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think I can see how at an elementary building, you have your, grade level performances. Some of them have singing groups, some of them have, I mean, Scarlett was in some kind of a play that they put on in elementary at Hilton, years ago, so I would think those things still go on. I don't know, I think it's worth thinking about anyway.
Maybe just put on the parking lot list.
Yep.
Anything else at the elementary level?
When we're talking about elementary levels, are we also at this point talking about the potential reconfiguration of a drive and parking road at Horning, or is that a separate topic?
Well, we can talk about that right now.
I
'cause
just didn't want, before we
it
skip over that, I
blends
just wanna-
together with the two.
It's on the parking lot list, though.
It's on the parking
Yeah,
lot.
I think
I
what
just,
you- I think
I
what
just
you're
didn't know if we
looking-
said we're done with elementaries, if that's,
Wait, it's a parking lot discussion, but we have money already allocated to it.
We do
Is
have
that
money
correct?
allocated.
So that's the question.
That's in the 150.
Whether it's gonna be,
Enough for it, right,
It's gonna allow.
right.
So,
well, and that, to me, that's probably the
That's
best
the biggest
example of a
question.
contingency
Yeah.
increase, because
Yeah.
there are gonna be so many unknowns when you start designing that, whatever that looks like.
We put a lot into it, we see a lot of impact, but it's a question.
Yeah, yeah, so,
You know what, they made that sound pretty clear though at our meeting. I mean, they talk about maybe having to have an off-ramp in the front there so they can make the right turn in. Signage probably, signs and that kind of stuff, and I imagine we're gonna put crosswalks at those, because it's an opportunity to do it. We can maybe do one of those 50-50 deals again with them.
I will,
Um,
oh, go ahead.
But, I know we talked about putting parking lots in it, off to the side, so it has a place to get cars off of it. And, perhaps we have some fields there that we have to accommodate for, so maybe we put a couple of those somewhere else, and we can still somehow work those into this parking lot, in between the parking lots perhaps. It's gonna take some creative thinking and some ideas, but when we have a general idea, and we could add a ton of money to it, or we could not. So we're just gonna have to discuss that.
Struggle with this space a lot because, I look at Maltby and I look at Horning and we have this situation with dual parking and the space, and it's, even if we were to provide some type of improvement to the traffic and the parking, I still think we're throwing a lot of money at Horning, the parking, and moving the fields. We don't have a price for moving the fields yet, correct? Okay. But not a, okay.
Keep it in
So-
mind though, they're not turf fields, they're not well-groomed,
I know,
extravagant fields.
but there's
And we
still
don't have to make
work.
them that either.
But there's still work,
Well,
you
we
gotta
can
make it
them to be
level.
playable. I mean,
Well,
they
Exactly.
can
Like
be
they are now.
Right,
That's what I mean.
drainage.
We don't have to make them,
Right.
we don't
Yeah.
have to put them, make a stadium out of what was a grass field.
Right. So I guess my point is, that when I look at the total cost where we're at right now with Horning and the roads, and without factoring in moving the fields, we're at, what, 24 million? Is that about right? Or is it a little bit more?
Seems high.
That's for the renovations at Horning, for.
Well, you're including the
recon-
building renovation.
Yep, reconfiguring the
Oh,
driveway, the
yes.
parking lots.
You're there.
And then we don't have the fields configured in. So if a new elementary school is 40 million and we can move it and then we completely, I know, but I'm just saying it's something I still think we should think
Yes, but
about.
the demo, you're not including the demo in that.
Maybe
of the
we
old
don't
one.
right now.
So with a new building comes a lot of new things, including new power lines and everything. So I don't know, we'd have to get an actual price on that. I think it'd be,
Are we talking about the parking then?
Go for it.
All right, because
Yes.
I just have a question
Yes.
about it, about the redesign. what are we actually solving? Because we're gonna be taking people that are frustrated in a short line and having them drive through a longer line?
We're getting
Is
them
that the
off of the
idea?
roads, which opens up traffic, and that's the key for the county too. They want the cars off the roads.
But then so they'll be on our road, like an internal road. They're not going to be on the county road, but it's not going to necessarily, I guess what I'm saying is that's not gonna necessarily decrease the experience. You're just driving in a different place, but it takes some,
Well,
for
that's
people
all
that
what
aren't
we-
dropping their kids
That's
off.
all in what we do with it. So, the hard part about designing it is figuring out how do you get the ones that wanna go to Horning in a spot, how do you get the ones that
Right.
wanna go to Scranton in a spot? The one thing we have going for us is a different time, so that helps you with that. So, you've gotta have a portion of that that's gonna be used for both, when everybody's there at the same time, and then then they'll dissipate, and they'll be on one side or the other. So, that's about running roads. I've run scenarios in my head of like, and I don't have any science to back it up, but of maybe multiple lanes that cars can come down, and then just pull off into the drop off and go, for each side. We talked about parking lots, and maybe that's still possible, getting them into a parking lot for Horning and one for Scranton, so that they can stop, their kid can get out and go in, and then they can,
Well, I
it's
guess
not our
that's-
fault that they
No.
can't get out of the parking lot real quick. They've got to do it smart.
But I think one of the things that you run into is people come and wait. So it's not a in and out,
And they're lined up
drive-through
down the road, and
experience.
they're probably the worst,
But
the worst
they're
offenders.
lining up, waiting, especially for pickup in the afternoon. I think
Right.
parents get there because they want to be first ones out. So how would that work potentially then?
I would say it would work about the same, but off of the road. Because those guys will line up on Baldwin Road. Yeah, Bauer Road. They're lined up, over the hill, waiting to get in the parking lot. So the key is that.
A big part of the reorientation is separating the bus traffic from
Yeah.
public traffic. That was a big piece of us trying to reorganize it, and
Yep.
separating those routes. Because right now, they controlling routes, they're taking some from home. And they want us to get out before we do that.
Yeah.
Out, and then it's a rush when people out of the parking lot.
Right.
And that was a big part of trying to solve that, separating that route completely. So they have separate entrances and exits.
I'm glad. Mhm. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But getting in the bus. Yeah.
Well, that's what my point is, like, I don't know that we're gonna ease the frustration of the parents that much. Yeah. Right.
Unless you separate the buildings.
But that's what the road's for. The road, where you're, all the people to what direction is that, the west, are able to turn and go out that way, and they're not going to the light at Bauer. I think that's the relief. That's where the
Yeah,
relief
that's
is
part of the
coming
relief.
from.
There'll be people the thing is, it's gonna be a figuring out period for a while, for everyone involved. And we'll probably have to have people with yellow vests, I'll be one of them, we got lots of those, out there helping people find their way. Signage is important, but most people don't look at signs when they're in a hurry to get somewhere. And we all experience that. So, what I'm thinking is some of them are gonna find if they come out onto, Brighton Road, they can only turn right to get out of there, going up the hill and out like you're going, towards Chilson. But they'll figure out, hey, we can sneak through the subdivision over here. That's not our fault. You can't solve everybody's problems. But, I mean, it's gonna be for a short period of time, they're trying to get to another road. Or they're gonna figure out if they get out, over on Bauer Road, they can now make a left or a right there, depending on which one they choose on. The line should be shorter waiting for the lights at that time. And there's something to be, if the county wants to get involved, they could probably help us out with timing on lights too, during periods of time. So that there's more green time for turning left and going towards downtown, during that hour and a half that we're looking for. They do it in many places, and they can actually have it be completely mechanical, or we can have one of our officers go over there, and they usually have a control box, and they can stand there and control that themselves. There's lots of ways to do this. If you've ever gone to that place up there, seen an outdoor theater event, they've got tons of people doing that kind of stuff. And if it's done right, it can be done quickly. So my thing is, get them off the roads and away from the sidewalks where people are walking. And that's 90% of the danger part. The rest of it is getting them to play nice in the parking lots. And once we show them how it's done for a week or two, they'll start getting the hang of it. It's gonna be a growth period though. It's a huge change. Just like the intersection I go through every day at the expressway. Which way am I gonna go today? Figure it out. Go ahead, sir.
Well, no, I was gonna say, I mean, I think that, I mean, part of it is the consideration of kind of where we are in the process. I mean, we're at the conceptual stage, that we need to understand an approximate cost of what it will take, you know, however this ultimately gets designed. If the bond passes and we get to the point of then designing this, my recommendation would be that we bring in a traffic engineering consultant at that point to give us specific, I mean, we know that by incorporating the conceptual improvements, we can get the traffic off the road. But then to Jennifer's point, you know, that's only one of the two problems. The other problem is getting the interior circulation efficiently done so that our, you know, the parents aren't waiting, separating the bus traffic from the vehicular traffic, you know, if maximizing the efficiency. We hired Fishback, which is the traffic engineering, their traffic engineers, back when we were looking at implementing the improvements a couple of years ago. And they were starting to come up with some really good ideas, but we hit a brick wall when we weren't getting cooperation from the road commission. And so that stopped us from being able to implement potentially some of the, you know, the changes that could be done on site with the circulation that would solve both problems, or so, you know. And ultimately, they did provide, for the Spencer improvements we did, they came up with a bunch of different alternatives, which included, you know, acceleration, deceleration lanes, left turn lanes, which were way too expensive, but they did come up with some ideas for the on-site improvements that increased the flow on site, because we could do that without needing cooperation from the road commission. We needed cooperation from the road commission to do that before. Maltby, Horning, we didn't get it at that time. I'm glad to see that we are now getting it. And I think if it does pass, and we have the dollars allocated, at that point, we can bring in the Fishback, or who, I mean, hire a traffic engineering consultant, and they can give us alternatives, and they can say, you know, these are, and there's gonna be obviously different cost parameters associated with the different alternatives, but that's when we'll, you know, spend the money to get that level of detail, in my opinion. And we don't need to know that now. We know that we definitely can make it work of getting the traffic off the road, and we probably can make it work of increasing the efficiency once they're on the property. And that's where, at that point, we can get the more definitive feedback from the traffic engineer.
And hopefully the other components that we're looking into with transportation and maybe start times can help with that as well.
Yeah.
Because I think that's another component too.
Yeah, so, anyway.
So we're set with that. Anything else regarding elementary buildings that stuck out to you? Are we okay with the menu of options that we have laid out? Is there anything we want to remove? I don't see anything, but I want to make sure that you guys have time to have that input and voice any concerns if you see any.
Are we going intermediate, or do we?
So yeah, I guess if nobody has anything, we can go continue to Maltby. So Maltby's our next one. There's minimal work here. Roof replacement is necessary, obviously. There's 11 classrooms that need sinks, cabinetry, countertops, new carpet. And then the elevator, obviously a security lockout. So,
Bleachers?
yeah, bleachers.
We were gonna do something with the vestibule, give it more light, make it pretty. That was in there, I guess.
Skylights. Yep.
Wasn't there a discussion at some point, I know that the upper gym floor, is a replacement of the flooring, but wasn't there some discussion at some point about making some modifications to the main gym itself?
With windows, we took that out.
Windows, yeah.
Windows out, right?
Was that, I couldn't remember, was that the
Yeah,
only
that was
thing
at
that was?
Multi. That, and then Mr. Jacobs got padding, quote for padding on the
Yeah.
walls, but that was the only other thing. Yep, and that was at Scranton too.
But they really just wanted lockers. He said that's the only problem they really have.
Okay.
So we're good with intermediate school, guys? Okay,
So Scranton Middle School, moving on. I'm gonna let you take that and get me going.
so this one, we were in discussion with what to do for orchestra. Orchestra needs a space. Do we feel comfortable, building on, giving them that space with the temperature-controlled storage, or do we have another solution?
Yeah, so we've got the orchestra and temperate storage is in
It's
this.
built in,
It's
yep.
within the money here, right, the one
Yep.
fifty. We talked about some windows in some of the classrooms there going into the corridors, maybe to get some light. It wasn't high on anybody's list apparently. I don't know if we're missing anything, I think there.
Minimal there, too. There was fence replacement, parking lot extension in the back, Mr. Storm had discussed, exterior team rooms near Scranton Field, and then some ADA in the locker rooms, just to create barrier-free access there, replacing bleachers. And that was
There'll
really...
be, as we
Oh,
talked,
AC in the gyms, yep, thank you.
there'll be some discussion about the fields that need to come over from
Mhm.
this morning. That'll be part of it that's not in there right now. Just a LOL.
I think we should look into investing into an orchestra space, provide that for them so that there's no, issue with scheduling. They each have their own room. I say we do it right, so I'm for it. I don't know how the rest of you feel. Okay.
So, getting back on Scranton, with the black box orchestral rehearsal and the gray box orchestral rehearsal that are both shown as being included as part of it.
So thank you for asking that question. The bottom portion is not part of it. That was just one of the original renderings. The reason why that's up there is to showcase where the orchestra room would go, which was at the far left of the building. So the west side of the building. The one to the south, just ignore that.
So that's the one, yeah,
Yep.
that's what's called black box orchestra.
Yep, that's out.
And- Okay, that's what I was confused, yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
There's two options.
Right, well, and I didn't know if we were now looking at both, and I was trying to understand what would be the difference between the two, so.
So what's the description of the one that we're talking about?
So we don't actually have a complete rendering for that space because we were still in limbo, trying to look at the numbers and really decide as a group what we wanted to do.
Okay.
So we would have to design a space that met the needs of, and the number of students that are going to be going through there. Or-
Orchestra room and storage.
Yep.
It's
Right.
not a black box.
That's what
Correct.
That's what I'm.
Yes, yes,
So
correct.
leaning into the providing, making sure orchestra has a dedicated space
Yes.
along with temperature-controlled storage for their instruments.
And then the band employee has enough.
And then they've got their own room.
They can
Yep.
Repurpose.
And there's some storage
What they have.
improvements for band. I know.
Some
it's-
renovation of
was-
that existing
Yep.
space.
That's
Some of
in
the
there.
tempered
Okay.
storage.
Yeah.
So that's
What-
good instruments.
I mean, how much different, I guess, in cost-wise would it be to make the orchestra room a black box? Like, can it be the same? Can they,
Well, I think you're talking about, what, a 300-person space versus, what do they have in orchestra right now at Scranton? About 100 kids that would be playing in there? So it's, a couple thousand square feet more.
So we could use that space for more than just one thing.
Specifically for black box.
Orchestra
Right.
space versus building a dedicated orchestra space.
Perfect.
I wouldn't say it's gonna be the ideal orchestra
I was
person.
gonna,
okay,
yeah.
that was my,
Would it have the high ceilings?
They'll have high ceilings.
All right. All right.
Perfect clarification, thank you.
I have a question, something that came up recently in the academic meeting was the science rooms at Scranton needing some updating. And I don't know if that, I know we hadn't talked about that initially, but if that could potentially be something we discuss, not necessarily exactly what that means, but allocating some dollars to update those rooms so that they can do, you know, a little more hands-on learning and experiments in those rooms.
I am for that, 100%.
I think we probably need to figure out what it is that they want, because it was just a brief conversation, right? They mentioned countertops, yeah.
Yeah, I thought I had heard that.
Just because, you know, the expense of the ones at the high school. I'm sure we're not talking about that.
No, we're talking about making some minor modifications to the existing
To the
rooms to
existing.
update cabinetry and countertops to make it more functional. That's all, yeah. I think that's at least the impression I got, but maybe, you know, we can look into that between now and final decision.
Okay. Otherwise, we are set with the projects. Is everybody okay with adding a dedicated orchestra space? Okay. Okay. Excellent. Off to the high school. All right, this is probably the bit,
Sorry, we did get the Scranton Field overlay though. Did we want to talk about that at all around Scranton?
I think that's directly connected to your Maltby, you know, that's, if you have to move stuff out of Maltby. So I think those are completely linked, so.
they're intertwined.
So what was the question? I'm sorry.
Overlay.
The only thing I think we had talked about a parking lot there regardless.
At Scranton?
Yeah,
Yeah, off to the left.
yeah.
Yeah, no, we talked about it. And, well, and, you know, we talked in great depth at the last meeting about the dangers and stuff back there, so, I mean, that's all gonna be part of it, I think. Because we've gotta kind of redesign that area so it's safer to get in and out, people aren't walking back there, you know, with wheelchairs and whatnot. So I know that we've had that discussion, and that is on our parking lot topic, so I think we have to encompass all of that, 'cause it's all out there. So, yeah.
And Scott's already begun the process of getting the gate for the other end of the lot, kind of what we talked about at the last school board meeting.
Can I ask a quick question on that? If we're we have handicap parking back there, and we're putting a gate up to,
The direction was that we're going to lock it down. Those handicap spots are not going to be used.
is that ADA compliant?
We
The teachers' lot.
we never had that lot before, so that didn't even exist. So that was put in 2019. But the handicap access to those 2 or 3 spots that Mr. Storm was talking about has led to all kinds of dangerous driving. So the suggestion, the direction we received as administration was short-term to lock it down until you have a long-term solution. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, just making sure we're moving those signs so that nobody can say we have blocked off handicap parking.
Okay, high school. So we talked about this remodel in the front. Reason being is band acoustically requires a 2-story facility based on the information we have today. Moving orchestra and choir to the current media center made more sense because they don't need as tall of a ceiling as band. And so then that led us to come up with the media commons, relocating it there. We talked about that last time. Does anybody have any questions about that, or?
I still have my reservations about that,
Okay.
based on the comments we received from
The media?
the media specialist, the assistant. Whether or not we're going to have the space needed for the students for some of these other things
Sure.
that they need, that they use the media center for,
Yep.
in terms of quiet space.
That's fair. So I think the media center, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's changing the way that it's being used in today, like, you know, thinking in the future.
Absolutely.
It's not a space. However, I do believe we plan on incorporating those types of spaces so that it's multifunctional. You'll have, you know, one of the food and drink comment, if there's computers, I would like to have a separate room for the computers to be in so that those will not get ruined. As far as books, they would be, you know, along the wall. Maybe you can speak to this better than I can.
So, reference materials,
Right.
so idea behind the community college is providing a variety of spaces. So it's large group instruction, it's small group work, it's kind of medium group. There can be quiet periods, there can be obviously more rambunctious areas, I'll say. But it's really more of a usable space, kind of if you think of your family room, the kitchen, kind of all coming together in your house. That's what it is for high school. It's more than a multi-purpose, functional space, where kids can hang out, feel like, they can have social time there. They can also do, their instruction time, their study time, things like that.
I get that, and I think that's really good, and I understand, the idea that the media center is used very differently with all the online access. But one of the things you mentioned is just in terms of like student testing, that kind of is when I'm thinking, I know that, I don't want it, doesn't it be quiet, I know you have food, but that kind of quiet is, I think that is an important time.
I have some thoughts for that.
Yeah.
So she calls it, what is it, the fungus room or the, those classrooms we went through in the
The
middle of the building
ROTC.
that are big, there's a bunch of sewing machines in it. We could deck that out and make it nice for testing. I mean, you're talking about tables and chairs, some carpets, a little
Okay.
bit of furniture, paint on the walls and make them bright again. That might be a good place to do that.
It's based.
Okay.
Or you
Yes.
just say the media commons is closed for testing today,
Yeah, there's actually.
and it's quiet.
Yeah.
So we can always do that.
Breakout rooms.
Yep.
In Pinckney, we did all glass door and wall, and you can go into those and they're nice and quiet. They've got a screen, they've got a desk, they can hold anywhere from 4 to 8 people. Those are great, and those are something we can put in. Is that what you were kind of talking about? Thank you.
I'm definitely in favor of redoing this. I think the way it looks antiquated, one, our entrance, two, our library, quite frankly, looks antiquated and there's a lot of wasted space. And this would allow us to revamp both of them and really come into the 21st century of what media center actually is. And I think we can accommodate testing in multitude of ways in other spaces.
I want to take, this is a little off of it, but it's all about this building we're talking about. In Grand Blanc, we redid their entire media center. And in that design, they have all these one-off little rooms. Some of them are kind of only half walls, but they allow, so for example, you're trying to get into, advanced psychology and books, and now you got to pick a different elective. They allow students to come in there. There's always a teacher in that room. And they can assist them, or they can just wait till the class is done, but they are on live on their laptop, the classrooms in whatever building down the hall, or room down the hall, and they are still allowed to get into that class because now we've made more seats that don't require a teacher, because they're teaching, but they're just being filmed. If the kid has the ability to take that class and do it online, live in school, that's what they allow. And you get so many extra people in these classrooms.
I have some reservations. I mean, it sounds to me like you're talking about like this hybrid, like you're going to have some students in class and some students not in class.
Yes, but they're just down the hall in a room.
I understand
and
that,
they have
but from a-
teachers there to assist.
From a teaching perspective, that's really, really hard. I want to be really careful about doing that because as a teacher, it's hard for you to attend to both of your students
Okay.
online and your students in person. That it's, I know in my teaching, it's like, I need them. I need
Not
them
a
all
teacher,
here,
my wife is, and she'd
they're all
probably
here,
agree with 80%.
or they're not here, or they're all online. It's like,
But they're doing it,
I
and
know, and
they're
I-
successful with it, and I'd
I-
at least like to look into how
Okay.
it works.
I think
'Cause
it's a hard
some
thing
kids
for
don't get that
teachers.
extra elective that they want because they didn't sign up for the other one for time enough, and then they never come back to it.
Right.
So, we talk about giving them more opportunities without having to add a 7th or an 8th hour, because nobody wants that. So I thought it was an opportunity, and maybe we could just find out what they're doing. I built the rooms. I don't know how they're manning them or how they're teaching it, but I know that those kids sit down, and they got earmuffs on, and they're in class, and they can see the class in the screen. I look around when I'm in there. It's a cool idea. I mean, it's kind of a college experience idea. I don't know, I got you.
I would just say it's not best practice
not,
to
yeah.
do one, it's either do all online or do all in person, that hybrid, because some kids don't have the ability to ask the questions or do some of the other, the teacher can't read their eyes and their facial expressions and things, so I'm not looking, but to have some breakout space for them to do their fully online classes would be helpful, I would say.
Right, if they're taking German online.
And so if there was to be a conversion of the media center into the orchestra and choir rooms, so would all the storage, the equipment storage would be included in that space? Or would there,
But would you like,
there wasn't even some of the orchestra equipment needed storage, right?
yes. When he was talking about,
I think we can accommodate all that within the media center square footage plus the area to the south that currently is kind of media support space. I think there's plenty of space in there for this function.
Okay.
would we move IT to the media commons, or where would we put the IT department?
Yeah, we can look at, keeping it in that central block or moving them somewhere else.
Okay.
Some of the media commons have almost like a IT help desk.
Yeah, I think that's something we definitely would have to have close at hand for them.
Well, I know currently a lot of the students that they print there, in our existing media center, they go there, so there are kids coming and going all the time related to that. And then there is a tech desk there, I believe, right? A help desk? Somebody else correct me if I'm wrong, within our existing, right, okay.
Anything else?
So, I mean, I guess the other thing is, have we received any, other than what may have been a couple of emails that have come through unsolicitedly to the board, have we received any specific feedback on this conceptual plan from any of the folks in the performing arts? Or, no?
So, I'm gonna ask them, following up on that, are we saying there's no black box in this model?
Correct.
What would we need, I mean, if we wanted to add it, what would that take?
Let me ask you this. So they did it this last time. I was there, on the stage of the BCPA. I think the wording of those letters was not, it wasn't well read, because it kind of, I'm like, so you sold out 3, but you only had 600, or what was it, 60, 80 people? And it can hold 1,200, so that means, so they're smaller events, I get that.
Right, so I didn't go to it, but I went to it when they did Radium Girls, and it's like, it was on the stage.
Right.
So they
And
have this.
That supposedly is how they did
That's in the
this time.
center, and then they have the seating on the side.
So I even thought about this in the media center, I discussed this earlier. What about if we can even, because this is a room that's not always going to be used, but could. But if it's during class time, during the day, why couldn't it be booked off for something like that, for practice at least? If we had shades that came down in those rooms. That's another thing that are popular. If you can black out those rooms or make them darker for people to study and stuff, you could also make it a little darker for I don't know if it's black in there. There's still lights, right? So, you still got the lights of the room, but you can still curtain it off and have the same effect for practicing, I was thinking. The black box portion of it, why can't we use the stage like they just did?
Well, the
Maybe we
idea
gotta
is
do
that
something more.
we're using the whole BCPA for this smaller space, when we could be using it for something else.
Well, we have
Okay.
also discussed potentially making improvements to Scranton.
Right, with the
Or,
stage, or whatever.
not Scranton, wait, was it Scranton? Yeah, it was Scranton, I think. Yeah, improving that stage space so that it could be used for these smaller events. Since there is a stage there, if we put up some kind of, it wouldn't be a traditional black box, but if there were some better audio equipment or lighting there, not extensive, but enough that you could create some theater room versus building another space. I mean, I would be interested in understanding what that would look like, just because it's also at another campus
I think it
too.
would be excellent to visit. Just so I can get this in my, I imagine this really dark room where you trip over each other trying to get to your seat, and all of a sudden there's, neon.
I don't think it has to do anything
I'd
with
really like to
lighting.
see how this thing works.
I don't think it has to do anything with lighting.
Well, it's black, so,
It's a smaller, more intimate theater. Glow sticks.
All right.
But there are real questions about this, and I put a request out to our folks in the music department, specifically the directors. What is their vision? What are they hoping to accomplish with this? Because like Brendan and team could talk, a black box can be a variety of things. When I was in a previous district, black box was for practice. It was for practice, that was the thing, and the performance was in a stage. What we're hearing from people coming to talk is they want 300 seats It sounds like a theater. It's a different, so is it a black box theater? Is it a practice facility? What's the vision? What is, so I think there's some questions that
I
need to
agree
be
with that.
answered.
I agree with that.
Um,
So I just want to make sure that it's not lost.
Yeah, I think it's on the parking lot
Yep.
list.
It's on the parking lot list?
It is on the parking lot list. It's not lost, it's just we need more understanding around
Well,
it.
yeah, and I think when you get the feedback, because to me, this reconfiguration, that's really a standalone, independent of a black, I mean, whether there is or isn't gonna be a black box, this is a distinct concept of the reconfiguration of the media center, choir room, orchestra room, band.
Yep.
And what I would like to know is, basically their feedback on this concept, and concerns they may have, suggestions they may have, if this is ultimately what is going to be pursued, because that would be helpful. And I think we can analyze this as an option independent of the black box conversation, because a black box is not gonna go in the media center, or it's not gonna be built right in front, right next to the main entrance to the high school, so.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think engaging the music folks, get a little feedback on the ideas. If this was conceptual coming out of here, if this is on that, on the menu in this format, I think we should definitely meet and talk.
Yeah.
What's the room that has kind of been abandoned in storage now?
The one
that's
across from
tiered?
the band?
Yes. Would that serve that purpose if we
That's
did
not
that
big
up
enough.
nice?
I don't think that's big
That's
enough.
not big
Is
enough.
that big enough?
Well, that would never sit 300 people, if that's what they're looking.
Well, 300, but that's not what they did. That's not what they just recently did. That was like
80?
60, 80 people, but it
Well, that's
wasn't all at
why I think
once,
we
right?
could
They went,
use Scranton.
No,
how was that done, Katie? Was it 80 people all at once on the stage?
There was maybe 130?
On stage?
Yeah, because you sit,
surround
and then,
it.
Surround it.
correct, it's
Oh,
almost like
then,
a
yeah,
theater
that
in
would-
the round
Around
or
the
something,
stage.
if you think about that, yeah.
So
Okay.
I would just like to add, I did have an opportunity to speak to Mr. Swinky and Mr. Fernandez about these spaces. They're very excited. Mr. Johnson, I have not had an opportunity to speak to yet, to get his opinion, but the two of the three that have seen the diagrams, they've given me a list of wish list items, I guess you could say, to incorporate, and it seems like the majority of them have already been addressed with
Okay.
these options. Again, Mr. Johnson is the only one that I need to connect with, and I think that that is obviously a great idea. So we'll follow up with him
Okay,
as
thanks.
well.
Yeah, I just need to understand it better, so I can wrap my head around it. I just can't do it like this.
So that leads us to the BCPA. We put in pretty much every opportunity to improve. I mean, this thing is 30 years old. I still think it's in great shape. Every time I go in there, I'm amazed. It really hasn't aged in terms of the building itself. I realize they need new seats and the lighting and those types of things, sound system, and those are all included in there. The one component that I think we need to talk to them on is the the scene shop expansion. So the idea there was to take the building off of the stage to allow it to occur in the scene shop, and then that way the stage gets freed up and the BCPA is more usable.
We don't have any money into that, do we? You did throw
We
something?
do, yeah, it's in there.
It's a lot of demo and a little bit of sprucing up, so, yeah, that would.
there's the two rooms, like, you're
Two
opening
rooms,
that, you're opening
and,
that up.
and the space in the middle just
Yeah.
made into one big one.
Okay.
So they could literally build the ship, leave it there until it's really needed. It would probably save I mean, it would be an opportunity to make the stage floor better too, because right now it's so much paint and scratch from all that work. It'd be nice to be able to spruce that up.
And so is the overhead door currently where the left of where it's now what's called the scene shop? Is that where that overhead door is, right? No, the overhead door that goes to the outside.
Oh, yeah.
It's right there, right?
That's it,
Yeah.
yeah, it's there, and then there's another one that goes into the corridor directly across from it.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, that whole area.
So that
Because we had,
was-
what, 3 drama kids or something this year? It was really small, so they weren't using that thing as a drama.
Yeah, so that little room was a classroom that they were using. I mean, that's what it was supposed to be designed for. So now we're taking that and making it all scene shop.
Right.
Any questions there? Next part of the high school. This is the AC, bleachers, sound system, which I know we all agree needs to be changed. And then some cosmetic remodels of the locker rooms in the field house and the auxiliary gym area. What are
I
they
have a
called?
question, and this would be for all the teams that use those locker rooms, could we have a, I don't know, maybe we just go by number of people that are using them. Get some kind of an allowance for furniture for them, because they're picking up couches on the side of the road and bringing them in to make it comfy in their locker rooms and dress it up like that, where maybe if we had an allowance in this where we could spruce up some of their, because it's where they hang, it doesn't matter what sport it is, if it's girls or boys basketball, if it's any other team in there, they just don't have that hangout that some of them do. And that was done on the backs of parents and whatever. But maybe we could have a balance or some type of a small fund that we can help everybody with their locker rooms. Because they're kind of pathetic, or most of them.
Until we get some equity in the locker rooms, I'm a heck no, because we have one female dedicated locker
No,
room.
I'm saying with this whole thing, 'cause
Yes.
we've talked about that. And while we're doing it, let's spruce them up a little bit and make them more accommodating, let's call it. Because most of these teams go in on, it's not just to hang out, but it's also they talk with the coaches, they talk about yesterday's game, you know, and then they can have a small fridge and some couches to sit around and talk about all that stuff, and that's part of team building.
I don't disagree, but can we accommodate every team we have to have its own space? I mean, is that what you're
Well,
asking?
No, but we're talking about making some of those locker rooms like multi-purpose. And if, you know, girls during this season, boys during that season, they still
So
all
shared
need places to,
space.
yeah, they
Right,
still need
okay.
places to sit and, and
Well,
congregate. and
current
talk.
configuration there is not
Yeah,
that.
it's
So
old school,
there's
coach screams and yells
dedicated-
at you and spits at you.
No, but I
and
mean,
that's
you
all
have
it's
like,
supposed to be.
you have dedicated locker rooms for some sports and not for others. So
No,
that's kind of
I
my question
agree.
is like, what is the vision, you know, as a whole? So,
I get it.
kind of to Mr. Binkley.
Next, science rooms. Wait, what do we have here? So initially, I think we had identified the 8 classrooms in that C8 vicinity, but then I brought up, there's that whole other side, like where Crane, Shandoval, I think we need to include all of them if we're gonna do it, remodel the
How
classrooms.
many are there then?
What's that?
So there's more than just the.
Yeah, there's more than just 8. I think there's 11. Yep.
Yeah.
And so initially, I don't know if you guys have that on the quote, we had 8. Did we talk about that last time to convert it to 11? Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay. So that was the only change from last time, I believe, there.
We were talking about class specific too,
Yep,
right?
and making it class-specific so that if you teach biology, it's set up for biology. If it's chemistry, it's set up for chemistry. Although Mrs. Marks and I toured another building and we saw some interesting thoughts that we shared with you guys where they had a prep room in between 2 classrooms. So if you needed to, let's say the teacher swapped and they were teaching chemistry the next year, all of the materials needed could be in that center prep room and you could easily just pull out what you needed as long as the classroom was set up, you know, to have gas as well as water, whatever else you needed.
Which alleviates a lot of money, because now you're sharing, you know, like, so.
Yeah.
When we had that conversation, I was
Yeah.
liking into like the med closet that they have at hospitals. They come from all over to one place and get what they need and go, and then they bring it back when they're done, or they accommodate for it. Something like that, so that we're not, you know, putting $1 million worth of equipment in a room for everybody and never
Right.
gets used. So, that way we only have to accommodate for so many classes. on each
Well,
room.
this had, you know, the dishwashers were in that prep
Yeah.
room, so you're not putting them in every classroom,
Yep.
but you're sharing that
Yeah.
between 2. So, yeah, I think it's more efficient, for sure.
If we can do that.
I don't know
That's
if it's
another-
feasible in
Yeah.
our building, but it was an
Right.
interesting setup.
Okay.
I mean, I'm guessing the way that our buildings are currently constructed, without doing major renovations, probably the only option would be, you know, how there's the back,
The back.
in the
Yes.
back, that's the,
Yes.
that's the, you know,
You'd have to run it back there. maybe.
right,
Yeah.
and that could be the shared space, because it's accessible from
Yeah.
multiple rooms.
Right,
I
with
mean,
doors in or something.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a
because
great
right now,
idea.
what's that?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it would have to go that way though,
Yeah,
instead
instead
of
of
in
in
Instead of-
between.
Yeah,
just-
it would just along the, you know, the exterior there of all those classrooms.
Mhm.
Rooms that have access to it then too. then.
Correct.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
put
Right.
holes in the walls to make.
I mean, that, to me, that would be the way to accomplish that that objective. If-
sharing that
if-
room,
yeah.
yeah, if that's the design that ends up seeming like it makes the most sense, I don't
Could-
know.
Because
Might
we,
bring some collaboration amongst the teams too.
yeah, because
Ideas
that
spread.
space behind C8, we didn't really do anything.
Too much with that at all.
No, right.
Consider.
Yeah, it was just
Still kinda just
the
storage,
main
isn't
room
it?
itself, right? Yeah,
Is
it's
that
really
what you
just.
see in the diagram there, the little white rectangle to the right of the, not C8, on the other, yeah, those spaces. That's it?
And you have it on both
Okay.
sides.
On both sides?
Yeah, see, I think that would be the way you could accomplish that, if,
Yeah. Okay. That's C8.
the white one, that's C8.
That's the one we already did.
Okay, so.
That's the one we're.
So are we just kind of estimating a number, not specific to whether it's chemistry or physics, for purposes of the cost estimates for the renovations?
Currently, actually, use the budget we have for the one classroom that's renovated, so.
Yeah,
Got it on there.
Yeah,
yeah,
You're going for.
yeah, no, that's good, yeah.
okay. Let's see, chiller, AC. Those are probably the main ones.
I'm gonna get this off, I'm gonna get this one done.
Right. And- It's been hanging on. And then here, bleachers in the field house, again, cosmetic remodels of the locker rooms, AC, and then we talked about doing the ceiling tiles in-house. And then there's a wall leak that we were gonna replace flashings on, so.
So why are we doing cosmetics in the locker rooms but not including the girls?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Should be. It says
It's
on number
already
2,
done.
It says not including girls.
That one's that they already did, right? That was already renovated? Yeah. That one's already, yeah. Okay, yeah.
We're talking about the two big classrooms up there,
Big sticky ones.
and then stuff in the.
On both sides of the tree.
And
But
that's,
I mean, the girls, I'm just going back to when you guys identified some stuff in the girls' locker room, like it's got that platform up, and it's not barrier-free so
was it that one or was it a different one?
the girls, the volleyball, basketball one has this platform up that they covered up something, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, they covered up the locker bases, and then the shower wasn't barrier-free. I don't know that it needs to be, because the girls don't shower there. But we're making them barrier-free in the other locker rooms, so I'm trying to figure out why we're doing some and not the rest.
These are probably typical construction, they go down, I don't know, 8 inches into the ground, these bases. You gotta usually demo them out, and you can pour it flat with this before. It's not a huge deal for demo.
I just think that if we're modernizing all of them, we should make them all look good.
We can add it in.
Mhm. Yeah, we toured it when we did it doesn't look bad, but they identified some structural issues with it, so that's.
Which locker rooms were remodeled by Oregon here? They're nice. There's one that's exceptionally nice.
A long time ago, but the locker room in this building is used by boys soccer in the fall, instead of girls soccer.
There's another team.
Truthfully, that one probably needs some carpet and paint. Stuff like that. That literally was done probably 15 years ago.
I know, it's, I guess it's,
No. Pre-architect work from,
Okay, so then this last one also can be done in-house. Currently in the art spaces, they have VCT rubber floor, and they want to replace it with rubber flooring. More
really clean, right?
One thing on the high school,
Yeah.
Okay. With the sound system in the field house, perfect.
Fantastic.
That's great news.
That's very exciting.
At this point, we're retaining the speakers.
Okay.
Usually, pretty good shape. I mean, like, we have the old school full-house speakers. We have a couple of them over at the our problems are they got moving away from a portable, we roll it in, roll it out system. Something on the wall that's fixed with touchpad, and then you have iPad. So we look at the first order of that. Stuff here. I just want to make it more where we had discussed that.
Okay, this is the athletic slide. I know we have a parking lot item on here for you for the turf, baseball, softball. But anything on this slide that we do not want to do?
Scoreboard, or the scoreboard that was in there, 12? 12, yeah, okay. The scoreboard and the sound system. What that would look like. We don't run it on games out there. We run unified soccer, sometimes people try to cross or soccer game or something out there. What's that? No, rugby's all that.
Like,
And so the scoreboard and the sound system would be repurposed over to that field?
No, your sound system, right?
That's done.
You think people hate me that
Well, I was gonna say, because that's gonna just invite
We're gonna
more.
have everybody yelling.
The scoreboard itself.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, it would be
one of
nice to
our
have a scoreboard back there.
Sound system is the one station model that's part of the scoreboard system, so that would just get downloaded.
I got you.
And then, but it's packages in with the video board, all those types of things. We need to, we're gonna go into the video board age, plan on that a little bit. Just like a regular scoreboard. Whether we try and tie in some curriculum opportunities, with our media classes or something like that.
Protect Club.
Yeah, I think that would be
That
great.
club from the BCPA, whatever, I mean, just, there's more to it than just, which is why even in our proposal, that, you know, when we talk, you'll see, aside from the video board, there's still a small kind of traditional scoreboard at the bottom. It's say for, PPSD, football, or any events out there. We already have issues with the sound system. So, getting people trying to use a video scoreboard out there. So we would have a traditional small scoreboard that is the video board.
Yeah.
Yep, just the basics, right?
And then you'll see that in all the other places. There's a lot to it.
My concern here is that the football scoreboard and the baseball and the softball scoreboards were all done at the same time. But we are choosing to upgrade one of them to a digital and not all of them. And I just want to point that out, that they all are the same age and of, the same type. And some of our neighboring school districts or in our conference school districts have done all of them, so.
I agree with that. They are the same age, but in defense of doing the main stadium, there are a lot more teams that use that stadium. There are a lot more kids that are running through that field. It's constantly in use for multiple teams versus softball is used by softball. I'm not discounting that, baseball is used by baseball, but if we count the number of teams and kids that are playing on the main stadium field, it's not just football. It's a lot of other sports are using that field as well. So number of student use is probably higher. Well, it is significantly higher. I don't know that that's the right argument. I'm just throwing that out there.
It does, though, say to those kids that just because you happen to play a sport on a field that others don't, that you're not valued as much as the other. But I think, for me, I mean, and we're putting a lot of money into the main stadium here. I would like, I mean, at the very least, if we're not gonna do all of the scoreboards, at the very least, I would like to move the turf fields from the parking lot to the main thing. That was the highest of the additional things on our, when we asked for our survey. That was the thing that got the most votes, even more than the black box theater, or some of the other theater stuff. Yeah, no, but it was on the other category, it was the thing that got the most votes. And I know that the baseball and softball folks were very interested in coming and talking about this. They were discouraged from coming, and they, you know, were told that, you know, the theater people that showed up maybe weren't as welcome as, or not, but they discouraged them from showing up. I thought they should come and talk, but they have now, I know they have sent some letters, but
Who discouraged them from coming?
administration told them, I don't know who, I was told multiple times, the administration says we don't need them here, we don't need them here. And I've been a little frustrated by it, and I want, because they were ready to come and talk, just like the theater folks were, and stuff. And so, I just think, based on the survey, based on some of the letters, based on what we've done, I would like to move that we put that into the main,
Then we put what?
the turf of the foot,
For
baseball.
baseball turf?
Yep. And softball.
I don't have a problem moving things right now, as we're not making final decisions at this point anyway, but I would ask moving forward for some of these things that we know what those maintenance costs are, because I do have concern that in all of these projects, right, anything that has a long-term maintenance, replacement cost, what the longevity is, and then what we're doing in comparison to what we have now. I know maintaining the grass fields is not ideal. It does take time. There is cost associated with it. It's not great in the weather that we have, for sure. The freeze-thaw makes things complicated, right? But I just want us to consider that as a board when we're making these decisions, that it isn't a one-time cost for several of these things, and so we do need to keep that in mind. We're adding in operational costs moving forward, and just to be aware of that when we're making the decisions. There will be replacement cost, and there is maintenance cost. And I would argue, I would like to see our fields, our turf fields, our existing turf fields, get more maintenance than they get right now, just based on the number of kids that are on them. I think that improves their longevity, and I think we should be looking at it as a 10-year max before it needs to get replaced, and not 15. That's my 2 cents for turf, so.
Adjacent district.
most of our conferences, or at least half of our conference is moving to that. More than half, I would say, are already there or moving to it. And so the kids are playing on it on a regular basis. And so, I know, it takes away a lot of that early district because these are spring sports. The amount of cancellations that happen. With turf, the only time you have to cancel is if there's lightning. Like, you can play in the rain because it'll drain.
I think there's some concern with slippery.
I mean,
It's a little slippery, but, you know, certainly it's like a load factor.
again, based on our survey, I mean, there's definitely interest in the community for it.
I'd also like to point out, my apologies, we are not replacing the home bleachers. That is supposed to be testing the home bleachers for their structural integrity. So just so everybody knows that, we're not replacing home bleachers. We're just testing to make sure as we.
Bring it up, we want to bring it up. We currently do that now,
They've been tested, so we can take that up.
one of the things Andy asked for was,
The rise, yeah.
Okay.
Katie, do we have a list of things that we put on?
The parking lot?
Well, yeah, well, we've actually kind of talked about all that stuff on the parking so far, but, the things that we would want to move forward with, immediately, you know, not have to wait for.
We do.
And I know, I mean, even, Mr. Storm and I were talking over here in the last meeting, you know, him and I really want air conditioning, but you know what, the safety of Scranton is more important. So, you know, I'm not gonna argue that point. So, you know, if we can figure out what we're gonna do, how much we're comfortable using of those funds and what we think they're gonna be used for, it'd be good that we could get going on some of this stuff, whatever it is. It might be helpful, you know, for some of our new projects too, to know, okay, we're gonna take that out of it, and that money can go somewhere else.
Well, the short-term fix for the safety issues that he described is just putting a new gate up, right? I mean, that's,
New gate and getting some better parking for
well, yeah, I mean, down the road.
handicap and that kind of stuff.
Right, but, right, that's what I was saying.
So we're gonna take that out of the fund and just do that right away.
Yeah.
So maybe we can elaborate on it then with bond funds when we get to that location. That would make sense. And then decide. But what items do we as a board want to be going on right away so we can tell them do? Because we're wasting time during the winter, it's a good time to get some of this stuff done.
I don't disagree, but do we want to hold off here because we're not exactly sure where our 31 AA decision is? And
Well,
if
that's
we
true.
opt out of
That's
those
out there now.
dollars, that we will just need to look at the budget as a
Well,
whole,
why
I
don't
guess.
we can still come up with the.
Priorities.
If we
Sure.
can do it,
I'm
we
good with
got
that.
these priorities,
Yep.
and the minute
Okay.
we're comfortable, we can just cut it loose. I'd like to get, we don't have to do it tonight necessarily, but, maybe in the next couple of weeks, we can get honed in on what everybody thinks we should use some of that money for. So we can start, you know, say, okay, we're all in agreement with this, let's just get these going, go Scott. Whatever they may be.
You're referring to the capital fund improvement
Yeah,
options that you
yes.
guys put, was
Yes.
14 million or 13 million?
Yep.
One of the other ones, I'm sure that this year, female lockers at the stadium for sessions. Visitors.
Okay.
Yeah, but the other piece of that is, I think that's a smart play, we have alarms, we have power, we got all that stuff. However, right now, we
So, speaking of like concession space, how much utilization is there of that building between the tennis courts and, like, right outside the softball field, that, right to the,
Just the
An
bathroom.
actual
what,
concession,
what's that?
an actual concession,
Yeah, does it get used?
not very much at all.
So what do we use it for then, other than,
Storage.
It sits there a lot, just to be upfront, but it's, that's space that is visibly bigger.
that's why I was asking.
Right.
In the girls.
That's the
You have the
softball.
softball and
Yeah,
the
girls'
baseball one?
softball.
Oh, that's where they're planning on,
exactly the spot.
okay,
Adding on to that, but not renovating.
okay.
Oh, well, can some of that space be renovated?
So part of it is the garage door, the equipment storage. The other end is the bathroom.
They're used all the time.
Yeah.
The concession part of that is really very small.
Yeah, that's not big enough. You do have to add on. It's
Oh,
not a
okay.
renovation.
And we could literally leave a small little concession there and just put the bathrooms and lockers behind it. I mean, just,
I looked at that space, but off the top of my head, so I'm looking at probably the key to that. But you have a very narrow run, you also have a storage area. The thing you gotta, should be careful of, is you can't go renovate that and use that space and say, okay, that's great for the girls. And then you go build a group of boys that is twice the girls. That would be a problem. One,
I think you have to add on. I don't
yeah,
think you
add
can.
on the back.
Yeah, you can't renovate that building.
We just need, we need the plumbing.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
We're just using it for the plumbing, for close to plumbing.
Can I ask a couple questions? Would it be possible to go to your parking lot area, the list of things for discussion? Oh, I know you're gonna go to the kitchen. Before we're done, if the board could just clarify what, like, the things that we need to talk about more, like what specific things that you want information-wise from the administration and from our architects and construction folks, that'd be appreciated, so we can gather, so the next time we meet, we'll have everything you need in order to make final decisions and things like that, so. Obviously, I think what Roger said as far as the multi-road makes perfect sense. You're trying to get a dollar figure, and then let's get experts to do that, But other things, like the turf, the cost, we have cost of it, and all the, whatever. So if we could get a list of things that you need from us, whether it's today or you let us know, throughout the week, that'd be appreciated. So, sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead with the kitchen.
thank you, wholesome, diverse food options at a time when more than half the calories consumed by young people come from ultra-processed foods. It's not a program enhancement. I look at it as a necessity. Recent research links ultra-processed food consumption to 32 adverse health outcomes, including cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, mental health disorders, and increased mortality. By producing fresh, minimally processed meals in a central kitchen, we can help displace these foods from students' diet and reduce their long-term health risks. This is one of the most direct daily investments we can make in students' well-being. Now I want you guys to put on your forward-thinking caps and look into the future and think about the impact that this will have beyond nutrition. The space can serve as a dynamic learning environment and support innovative CTE pathways. It opens doors for students to explore culinary arts, nutrition, food science, supply chain logistics, and hospitality. And then when you integrate that with science, agriculture, business courses, you're creating hands-on real-world experiences. Whether they're managing budgets and analyzing nutritional data to operating commercial-grade equipment and producing meals at scale. This allows food service to also serve as an instructional hub that strengthens academic learning and college and career readiness. So to me, the Central Kitchen is not just a facility. It's a prevention engine, an educational laboratory, and a launching pad for meaningful careers for the children in our district. We had an academic meeting earlier this week, and we had a lot of discussion around the science curriculum. And so when I was thinking about this central kitchen, there's so many opportunities to meld the two with that. And, you look at biology, you can talk about how food influences, the mitochondrial function and how that then produces ATP. When you think about microbiology, you can talk about bacterial, fungi, yeast, and how that, creates fermentation, preservation, spoilage of food. Chemistry, through, the cooking reactions. There's so many different things that we can incorporate and go from abstract to real and tangible. And so I look at it, from a much broader perspective and long term, and I hope you guys do too. So that's just.
Is there any high schools that have culinary classes right now?
Howell does.
Howell does.
Howell does,
Yeah.
yeah.
I never even thought about it, it's a great.
Yeah. Well,
Or the consortium.
it is part of the consortium, yeah. But if you look like even further, what areas can they come out with for this, and career readiness and whatnot? Food science, biotechnology, health and nutrition. They could be dietitians, public health specialists. You can look into environmental, agricultural sciences, engineering and technology, food process engineer, chemical engineer, packaging engineer, and then the business and hospitality side of things. So there's so much that can come from, it's not just about the meals.
You can piggyback, because here's one of my biggest things about our sports teams. Son comes home, famished and barely able to walk. What'd you
Sports
eat today?
nutrition, right.
I don't know, sausage and a hot dog and whatever. Oh, that's great.
Right.
We don't teach them that. And
Yep.
it would be great if we could make that part of their, hey, if you're gonna be in athletics, learn what you should be. That goes for every athlete in the buildings. So I see all kinds of opportunities for the culinary program attached to it that they're learning off of what you're talking about. That's great.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
You mentioned high school, so
Yes.
where would this fit?
I'm leaving that up to Mr. Pollard.
Okay.
Sounds great, doesn't it? That is the conundrum, right? We have a lot of space. We have 500,000 square feet at the high school, but where would that go? I'm hoping he can,
What is behind the kitchen?
well, there's the delivery, so, and you need that. That's a huge part, because you have to have the trucks come in so that it can come off and, what do they call that? Delivery. Loading dock, thank you. So that's all there. I don't know how much more space. I think we probably only need a couple
It's usually a lot of
thousand
plumbing and
square.
electricity that goes into it.
Yeah, a couple thousand square feet. I don't know if you can build up. I have no idea. So
Great idea.
I would love to have it at the high school. If we can find space for it, I think it would be a fantastic opportunity long-term for our kids, beyond just making better meals.
I think having it at the high school would make it more accessible,
Yeah,
tied to curriculum.
yep,
It's an on-site, will be hard to get tied.
yep. Yep. So I have
a question. You said before if there were things we were interested in knowing, that would be helpful, and maybe you can help with this too, because you've spent so much time on it. But if we went this route, and let's just say we figure out how to get it at the high school, and it's
Yep.
the right space, and we can add it in, what are we talking about future operational costs associated with this? Because we'll be delivering food to schools, right, which from that, so that would potentially require additional staffing, I would guess, trucks, you know, et cetera. So not to the dollar, but just understanding what would we be adding into our budget by doing this in a general timeframe. And I'm not asking for it today, but just as we're making the decision, thinking about what that means
Yep.
long-term too.
Yep.
Because it will totally shift the way we're delivering food to students.
For sure. The thought behind this was that it would actually lower costs instead of, let's say we remodeled all of the kitchens, and then you would have staffing at each one. The labor costs would be better having it centrally, because you can accomplish more there with all the equipment, with less people, and then perhaps you have them double, and they can, the people who prep maybe can drive out and then work. It would be a work in progress, I think. I don't
Yeah,
know
no,
the
I know a
answers
lot
to
of
that.
districts do this. I mean, we lived in a district that had a central kitchen that delivered food. You know, the schools did not have the the elementaries anyway, did not have the capacity in there. They just weren't built like
Yep.
that, right? And so they did bring the food in daily. I'm just curious what that means from, I have no idea
Yeah.
what that means from a dollar amount.
Yep.
That's all.
We can work on
Okay.
that.
Thanks.
Yes. Okay.
You got it already figured out, it's all set?
So is the, do you want to continue talking about these topics, or do you want to give us a list of things to look at for the next time we meet?
Before-
What's the next step?
Orchestra, I'm looking at this list, orchestra at Scranton, is that already taken care of, or is that more?
So that's something that they will have to decide on, how they get the students that are there.
But we didn't account that because that was in the drawing?
It's in there.
It's in there. So that
So we're just looking at what we can cross off this.
So that doesn't need.
Yeah.
Fiscal redesign, crossed out.
The security, I thought the security was in most of them.
It's just who we want them.
Right, okay, but in terms of cost?
Yes.
In terms of cost,
Yep. The only things that aren't included is the purchase of land, the turf, baseball, softball, black box,
Stage.
stage at the elementary, and then we do not include moving of things, the drive, parking lots, and site work, is all included, but not moving fields and experience.
So I think we would want to know that, that's in the cost, the moving of the fields, yeah.
The turf is actually in the number, there was lighting, we talked about adding baseball and softball, it's not.
Okay.
Oh, so the turf's already in the 151?
For lighting, for baseball and softball, and replacing the lighting.
I'll give up on the lighting, and I'll give up even on the scoreboard, as long as we can get the turf in the team rooms.
One thing I would like to ask, though, is can we get a general idea of what the maintenance is? I just want to know those numbers before we sign on to all of this for turf maintenance. Yeah, and if
Yes.
adding in these 2 additional fields, what will that mean? Maybe it's less, because we're going to have more. I don't know, you know.
Do we pay someone to do the maintenance?
We bring them in the summer.
Okay.
And also, yeah, can you just, like, maybe share when we get to that point, how frequently it's done? Is it just once a year or whatever, so that we know, what we're doing, best practice? Thanks.
You've probably
Okay.
done this already, and that's why you're doing it this way, but is there any savings in having someone that does that in-house?
So we do it in-house throughout the school year.
Okay.
We do kind of a rehab maintenance, similar to like what we do in the gym floor.
Yeah. So we have one of those beater machines or whatever.
Yeah, we do that in maintenance for summer.
But for the baseball and softball fields, I mean, don't we have, is it Cotton Care that does the striping and?
Northland.
So Northland Services does all our ground grass cutting, fertilizing.
Right, but what, and even for like the striping of the fields, and they do all that, because that's the specialty.
Northland does the striking.
Okay.
They do it all. So they wouldn't be doing stripping, they wouldn't be doing grass cutting, they would no longer be irrigating. The biggest costs, like years past, the maintenance would be
that really true for baseball and softball? Like the infield never does not require replacement, less than 10 years? I find that hard to believe.
Because there's always problem areas, like on rectangle field, anywhere stadiums, the cross gully,
Right.
those areas are higher maintenance. Rubber and more frequent. Baseball, softball, your pitching mound, you have another part. I don't get those numbers.
Yeah, just curious so that we go into it knowing exactly what we're going to be rolling in.
Your annual summer maintenance. Spend more out. But you're more square footage in terms of just your annual preventative maintenance. But baseball, softball, more so than on the baseball field than on the softball. You get more foot action in softball.
That'll be great.
We can get the animal, added to turf fields and say, okay, we now need to do, the 3 rectangle turf fields plus the 2 diamonds. What's that package going to
Right.
be every July?
That'll be great. Thank you.
So I think, if I'm looking at this list, it looks to me like the things that we don't really have costs for yet are for the purchase of land, because, what, depends on land, right?
Yep.
The black box and the stages.
Yep.
So to me, it seems like those are the 3 things. Now, it sounds like the turf is there, but maybe we want quotes, we want some information on lights for the, change it on this list from turf to lights, just to get costs,
I think they gave us costs
Oh,
before.
did we have
on
those?
lights.
Okay.
But the biggest issue there was the neighbors. It's not even so much the cost, it's
Okay.
the neighbors. I mean, I would love it, because especially in April, you can barely get a doubleheader in, right? You're butting up against, but at the risk of the neighborhood there, let's start with this.
Yep.
And then maybe at some point later.
So I guess that's what I would be looking at, I would want more information on. And I didn't include central kitchen, Katie, because it sounds like you have that, or do you need more information on that, or do we
They have that
They have that
earmarked
okay.
on there. It's just we gotta, I think, decide on, well, A, if it can even fit at the high school, and then what we wanna do if it can't,
Okay.
you know.
As far as delivery, I've seen it done in other districts. Usually have one of those little mini vans there.
Yeah, they get a box truck.
Empty in the back and they slide the food in and
Yep.
take off and come back for more.
We had this conversation at our last student nutrition meeting, so we have numbers. I could see them, but I don't want to misquote
me
the
either.
things. We wrote them all down and everything, so we'll get those to everybody.
Okay, great.
Just want to say, Katie, another fantastic job of really narrowing this down and putting it in a presentable way.
And Mr. Stahl as well. We make a good team.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah,
It
thank you
makes
very
it so
much.
much more digestible for those of us that are,
Yeah.
yeah, and not understanding, they're, we're not builders, we're not,
Thank you.
so I appreciate that.
Yeah, and thank you guys for being here tonight. We appreciate all of your input and feedback, and all your behind-the-scenes efforts that are still ongoing, and we're headed in the right direction. And hopefully, we've got a couple months to get things dialed in to a greater extent, and we'll be ready to pull the trigger in February, right? That's our deadline?
Do we have any thoughts on, do we want to throw out 3 or 4 things that would be, everybody should think about whether or not that wants to come out of our funds and get moving on it right away?
For the capital funds?
Yeah, for the
We
capital.
had our earmark before.
Just kind of come up with some ideas that we can all muddle through our heads and say, yeah, that sounds great. Katie, do you think you gotta, I mean, there's the air conditioning, I'll throw that out there.
Well,
And
Just one
the
fast-
reality is, and
Not doing it again.
just for Scott, like, for, let's say, air conditioning, are we too late? Like, how does, like, if you were gonna do air conditioning in those gymnasiums, when does that have to be out on the street for you to be able to do something in the summer?
And this is 4 units, right? 4 small ones. And a condenser. Yeah.
We would have to get engineering drawings, we have to put it on,
So,
drawings before we get any order.
so you're pretty much not doing it next summer?
Be in time for next.
You're past next summer, is what I'm saying.
And I don't know that that's something we have to do over the summer.
Well, I'm just saying, like, that's when you would get the benefit of it, it's summer, so I was just saying, as far as like the speed of
We
it.
got going on it. I mean, I will not put the pressure on you to say it needs to be done for, the first thing that goes on in the gymnasium. I don't think you'll do it to me. But I'm saying, if we get going on it now, in the next couple months, they'll be more readily available again because the rush is over. And everybody always procrastinates and then wants them all, in May. And we realistically can't even get it, up and running until after summer then. So if we were to get it going now and get the demo done and whatever else we could, it's just that much more time, that we save for later, just in this specific type of work. Because air conditioners, we don't think about them until it's hot, and then you're not gonna get them up and running until winter, and then you don't need them for 6 months. That's how it always works.
I personally would like to have Mr. Jacobs go through our list and have a lens on it of, if the bond doesn't pass, what needs to be done on this list? Like, what do we have to do? And then allocate it, and then maybe we can talk about that from.
I think we did talk about that, right? Having some prioritization from
Yeah.
you and administration, so that helps us know from your perspective if you could choose what you think should be first on the list.
You wanna rattle far off that you'd like us to think about, or? Listen, the reason I'm saying, to this guy's point over here, we have tossed the ball on this now 5 meetings. So, I mean, I'm trying to talk like I'm too. We need to come up with some plans, so when are we gonna do that? Can we have 4 items that maybe we can throw 1 or 2 to him next meeting if everybody's thought about it? Or do we literally not have a clue?
Well,
And that's okay too, I'm just asking.
It's, from my perspective, it's never about not having a clue. I've always felt like these need to be looked at in conjunction with one another, Ken. What we're going to be looking at for the potential bond, and, because, I mean, we've had this money sitting there for, what, a year now? I mean, and, the money that's in the capital, or 10 months, whatever the amount is. But the point is that we were always holding off, other than when we took the money out for the fields, that we wanted to prioritize that. So to me, that calculus hasn't changed. I've always looked at it as, I'd like to look at both of them in conjunction with one another. Because frankly, if the bond doesn't pass, then, that's gonna significantly impact what becomes a priority of things that we need to get.
Well, good, this
have
is
done.
something we haven't said before. This is,
Yeah, I mean, that's my perspective.
so hold off until we know what we're gonna get.
I'm not saying we have to hold off until May or next November,
Whatever.
but,
We'll know
but-
by April.
I guess, you guys looked at this in the facilities committee. Give it to Scott to say what's even doable. And what would have to be done if we don't have a, like, if we don't have a bond, what on that list still has to get done? And then let's go forward with those things,
Right.
because,
So, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Right.
And then bring it back to us next meeting, and we can,
Yeah.
we've already talked about it, doesn't have to go to for action. Let's-
Facility meeting before practice
Yeah, the 31 AA, yeah, hit is another one.
But we could vote on it
Sure.
pending that
Yeah.
outcome.
Absolutely. I just think it's all tied together.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Anything further from anybody? No? All right, well, again, thanks everyone for being here tonight. We appreciate all your valuable input. We are still tentatively planning on having a special meeting on December 3rd at 7 o'clock.
Okay, putting that in minutes.
Yeah, okay. And then our next regular meeting is Monday, December 8th, which will be our last meeting of 2025.
Crazy.
Hard to believe. Yeah. All right, this meeting is adjourned.